We start with Decision 2024 and a 20-year-old computer glitch. That's how long an Arizona database for registered voters has failed to properly track whether 98,000 longtime voters complied with state law by submitting proof of citizenship in order to vote a full ballot with all elections. That left the voters in limbo. Now, with early ballots ready to be mailed out, those 98,000 Arizonans' rights have been preserved. The Arizona Supreme Court decided late Friday that those voters can continue to vote the full ballot. The court said, "We are unwilling to disenfranchise voters en masse." Democratic Secretary of State Adrian supported this option. The justices rejected a second option that would have restricted the voters to a so-called federal-only ballot for voters who don't submit proof of citizenship. That ballot has federal, Senate, and congressional races, but no local or state elections or ballot measures.
We are going to keep the public informed. We're going to let you know what is happening, and we're going to try to reach a resolution that is as fair as possible to Arizona's voters.
And one of the key people who has taken the same side as Democratic Secretary of State Adrian is the chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party. She joins us now. Gina Swoboda, welcome to Sunday Square Off.
Thank you. It's great to be with you, Pam.
Rare moment of unity here.
Yes, yeah. Rare, but particularly important in issues like this.
Let's dig into it. So how are you and Adrian finding common cause on this, on that option 2, to let the voters just vote everything, even though they haven't documented their citizenship?
Thank you. So we are, as you said in the opening, we are within 2 weeks of early voting beginning. The ballots for our military and overseas voters have already begun to be mailed out. Maricopa started mailing them out yesterday. Our county recorders need to place their orders for the federal-only races ballots or the full ballots next week. So under federal law, the National Voter Registration Act says once you get within 90 days of an election, you don't do routine list maintenance. And that is to protect voters from getting dropped off the rolls where they have no recourse, no time, and frankly, no due process. We believe in due process. This is not the fault of the voters. They have no idea that they're in this situation. I do not believe we can effectively communicate with them in time to get to them, inform them that they have this glitch that they were unaware of, have them come back and get their ballots done and processed. I think they'll be disenfranchised.
Okay, and I do want to put a timestamp on this conversation. As we're talking, the Supreme Court is deliberating. There may be a decision by the time you see this, so that's always a possibility. Who is at fault for this? This began 20 years ago. You've worked in the Secretary of State's office for several years. You know how the sausage is made in there. How did this happen?
This is a programming glitch in motor vehicle. So if you acquired a driver's license before October of 1996, you were not required to prove citizenship at that time.
So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. It's a weedy subject. Yeah. Okay, how does a programming glitch happen? Is it antiquated systems?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the budgeting that the Department of Transportation may or may not have, but when you keep overlaying statutory changes in a legacy software system, it's likely that there was a flag that just got turned off. Also, you see this when people do software builds, if they're not a subject matter expert in the underlying policy, they wouldn't know that what they were doing was going to change something that would impact voters. I mean, it's really that simple.
You recorded, I think, was it a 20-minute video on
I did. A whiteboard. I love it.
This past week, you seem to love it being the explainer-in-chief. This does have the added benefit for Republicans. 37% or so of these voters are Republican voters. If they were not able to vote on the full ballot, they would be left out of legislative races, county races, which, as you pointed out, could hurt Republican candidates.
Well, absolutely. And I would feel the same way if the majority of the voters that are on this list were Democrats. There are 36,000 Republicans. There were 28,000 party not designated folks. There are, I think, about 26,000 Democrats. And every one of these people has been in the state of Arizona since pre-1996, has always had a full ballot, has no idea anything's wrong. And yes, we're not talking about whether or not they can vote for president, Senate, or Congress. No matter what happens here, they're all going to get to vote that ballot. We're talking about legislature, county races, city races, school boards, and the ballot measures. You know, people are passionately engaged in these ballot measures, and they'll just lose their voice.
And yet proof of citizenship has been a major issue for Republicans here in Arizona, for Republicans in Congress. They want everybody to show proof of citizenship for all elections. How can that now just be shoved over to the side?
I do not believe there is any dichotomy whatsoever in this position. So if we were in a world where I thought the me for me a vote of 2 litigation, which involves Arizona attempting to require proof of citizenship to vote for president or to vote by mail, we're in the Ninth Circuit on that case. We're fighting on that case. It's my bedrock foundation and principle that you should be a citizen to make decisions to put people in office that affect policy, okay? But none of those decisions are going to get made before this election. And again, no matter what happens here, these folks are going to get to vote in federal elections. What we're talking about is, and by the way, Bram.
But the state elections are just as important.
Yeah,
Control of the legislature is at stake.
I agree. But the people that are in this bucket, my understanding is in the briefing that the Secretary and the Governor gave, include Governor Hobbs, Senator Sinema, and the person sitting next to you. I have been told I might be in this bucket.
You're one of the 98.
Yeah.
You are one of the 98.
Yes, that's my understanding. And I showed my proof of citizenship when I registered to vote on March 3rd, 1995. So, you know.
So we are anticipating a lot of litigation after what is expected to be a very close election. Is it likely this will end in litigation once both parties go through those lists and they will get their names, the names of all the voters? Is it likely this will end in litigation, and would you pursue litigation if perhaps you believe the party lost a seat it could have won if the Supreme Court decision hadn't gone the way it did?
No. I, Gina Swoboda, the chair of the Republican Party of Arizona, will not pursue any litigation regarding this bucket of voters. I will live with what the state Supreme Court decides. That's why we're seeking judicial intervention right now, because we do not want these votes questioned later. We need the court to tell us, you know, this is how we're going to handle it. And that's always what we seek. You know, all the litigation that I do as the party chair is prospective. I have not sought any relief in my NVRA case against the secretary where we don't agree. All I'm asking him to do is tell the speaker and the president what your list maintenance is. In the me for me a vote of 2 on citizenship, we're talking about prospective voter registrants. You are never, in my world, you are never trying to impact the voters in this election this close to the election. The most important thing is that people not be disenfranchised and their voices get heard.
Okay. I want to end with a little bit of info about you. So you worked in the Secretary of State's office. In 2020, you were election day administrator for the Trump campaign.
Yes.
2022, you were handled elections-related work for Kari Lake. Neither candidate has accepted the results of their election defeat. Did they lose a free and fair election, Donald Trump and Kari Lake?
You know, that's an interesting point in this context. So in 2020, Mark Elias and a lot of the attorneys on the left changed the rules of the election as we were voting. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court started accepting mail ballots postmarked 5 days after Election Day, which violated the Constitution. The Wisconsin Elections Commission was allowing people to say they were indefinitely confined and go into nursing homes and collect ballots that were prohibited from doing so. So the exact reason I'm fighting this fight now to protect all of these voters of all of the parties and make sure we know the answer before we start voting is so that that doesn't happen. That's 20. In 20, you can't change the rules.
It was a yes or no question.
Well, it might be for you, Bram,
but it should be, shouldn't it? It's a yes or no
question.
It should be. So did Donald Trump and Kari Lake lose free and fair elections?
No. Donald Trump lost an election that I would say was stolen fair and square. The rules were changed in the middle of the game. Now, 22 is different. 22, we had an equipment failure that was catastrophic, and I went to court in 22 and asked Maricopa County to keep the polls open for an hour. And had they kept the polls open for an hour, I think everything that happened after that would have been different. But you can't have voters standing on a line for 3 hours and then they walk away.
So you do not accept the results of either election?
I accept that the canvass was certified and the people that are seated have been elected. and I accept that we need to move forward and focus on right now. But I do not in any way think that the rules of the road were followed in 20, and I do not in any way think that it was right that we didn't keep the polls open when we had a catastrophic failure in 22.
And yet, every lawsuit has failed.
Well, you know, I would say Georgia...
That's the recourse. We're talking about Arizona.
And that's why we do it now. And that's why all my litigation is now. I'm going to fight to make sure that we have the most fair playing field we have, that we all agree on what the rules are, and then it's everybody's job to do the best they can. If something happens and they stop following the rules, then it's fair game.
Got to end it there. Gina Swoboda, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Bram.
When we come back...